People who are searching for job seekers do use keywords on resume on LinkedIn. So it's a query, and we just use search words. And so I guess the most important thing is to have those keywords on your LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
Hi, Carrie. I have a quick question. LinkedIn introduced a new feature, this green perimeter around
Yeah.
open for new job. What's your take on that? Do you think it's a good idea, or that actually takes the value?
I think it's very helpful. I honestly don't know how to use it yet, but I do see it, and it's definitely helpful.
Okay, because I used it for a brief time period, then I felt like, is it coming out too desperate? You know, I was not sure.
I don't know. I'm interested to hear what Jim or Richard have to say. I think as much as you can advertise that you are open for work and you're searching, it's helpful.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
That open for work green circle around your LinkedIn profile. Have you seen that?
And
Right.
you can do it in two ways. You can select recruiters only, which mine is that way right now, or you can make it to viewable to everybody on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, you know, the whole point of being on LinkedIn is to, you know, broadcast your availability if you're, you know, between situations. And even, you know, the point of being on LinkedIn is to help improve your career prospects. So certainly if you're between situations and looking, you've got to get the word out. And I would not limit it to just recruiters in that event. I would make sure that hiring managers internally, you know, when there's so many people on the market, companies have a tendency not to use recruiters as much. And especially in my case, where my sweet spot is doing confidential searches, well, you know, there's a lot less need to do confidential searches, especially if you're rebuilding your organization after a lot of COVID-related downsizing and all.
Well, Sita, as a seller's agent, I would say that Carrie, who represents the buyer, would prefer to hire employed people, or not her, but the company.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm of the opposite opinion. You had that insinuation. It insinuates that you are looking. I don't think that adds value to your brand to advertise that you're looking. So I would not do it. It makes the recruiter's job maybe a little easier, or possibly, but I would say no, don't do it. So, you know, you have a difference of opinion.
Yeah, thank you all. That's where I am, very conflicted about it.
So you're still confused.
Right. We haven't helped you.
But this is great. This is exactly what I need to learn. You know, different opinions, both sides.
Oh, I'm glad I created a little confusion, if nothing else.
Hey, Carrie, this is Ed Rogers again. I just had a question about, you know, with LinkedIn, you can opt out obviously for the free version, or you can pay and get additional services. Are there any benefits for going for paid versus unpaid? Are there things or opportunities that you're missing by not paying for a higher level of service that would help you in a job search? Because again, I'm kind of like I mentioned, I'm a consultant right now. I go in between doing business development to try to find additional clients. And then sometimes I find myself where I'm in between doing zero because I'm trying to build that pipeline. So I don't want to put the green ring around my profile because I don't feel like I'm out of work. I'm just obviously going through business development as well. So just curious to know if that adds anything to your search or to your ability to find the next position.
Well, I do know that there's two different aspects that you can pay for additional services on LinkedIn. One is, I think, LinkedIn Premium. And I think that's about, is that $20, $30 a month? And what you can get on that, I believe, is that you can see people who viewed you. And I think you can see, you have more ability to in-mail folks with Premium.
Yes.
And you also get training with LinkedIn Premium. Remember I mentioned about the LinkedIn Learning Solutions? You can also take classes on LinkedIn with the Premium. But also, Ed, there's a Sales Navigator. Are you familiar with that on LinkedIn?
I'm not.
So that's also a paid you have to pay for that. But if you're trying to develop business, I have not done it, but my husband has. It's a Sales Navigator, and you have access to a lot of information within each company: size, revenue, number of employees, and I think it may say who the executives are. It does. My husband just said. So it's very helpful.
Okay, that's good information. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I could add too, Ed, if there's a guy in town in Atlanta, and I think Jim knows him, Greg Burkhalter. He's known as the LinkedIn guy around town. He's qualified by LinkedIn to teach LinkedIn, etc. To answer your first question, when I went to one of his seminars last year, he said he's never paid for the premium version for LinkedIn because he knows all the ins and outs of the regular one. But to her point, Sales Navigator can be important. I've got some people in my firm that use it for their business development. I'm considering using it, but it's quite a bit more expensive. But just for the basic LinkedIn person, Greg Burkhalter knows a lot about LinkedIn. You might look him up on LinkedIn and try to connect with him, etc., because he's got a lot of knowledge about it if you want to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yep.
So one other thing I'm using Premium now, but probably not for consulting, but if you are applying for jobs, it tells you who else applied to the job and how you compare their level, the types of degrees they have, the type of skills they have, and it gives you some kind of percentage saying you are in top 5, top 10, top 25%. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not, but at least you would know which skills are missing and you can add to your LinkedIn profile. Because you may have Microsoft Word, but you wouldn't think about putting there, right? But it may cost you.
Good point.
Well, I'd just add that Carrie was emphasizing improving your LinkedIn profile. I would, something we can agree on. Probably, I always tell people, 20 or 30 times or maybe 50 times more people will see your LinkedIn profile than ever see your resume. So you need to make sure that's out in the public. You need to do your best job on your LinkedIn profile because that's what can potentially attract people to you, not your resume.
To expand on that, what I do or what I've done is I have my LinkedIn profile, but I also attach my resume on my LinkedIn profile. So you can easily do that. If someone wants additional information, they just click on the document.
They can download that, correct?
Absolutely.
And I would not do that if I was a job seeker. I would not recommend it. Make them come to you to get the information. They want it to be easy for them.
Yeah.
I want them to come to you and start a conversation to find out more.
Yeah, and I'm kind of worried about confidentiality too, right? Because sometimes you work on projects for companies, you may just not want to put it out there.
Well, that's true. That's true. If it's confidential, I agree. You don't want to put all of that on there.
That's a good point. Actually, most of the work that I do for clients, I've almost always have signed a confidentiality agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I talk about the consulting work I've done, I don't list any companies. And I've wondered if that's a negative as well, but I don't know a way around that.
So it's okay not to list companies, but instead, Brent, do you list maybe what the industry is and the revenues if it's not a private company, or something to quantify what kind of a company it is? Because that would be helpful.
I have not. So, but I like that suggestion. I mean, I could talk about the fact that I've worked for the top 10 animal health companies or how many of them were and that kind of thing. I've usually given more broad examples of done work in business development or M&A and those kinds of things where it's, I mean, I could say how many companies I've looked at to build a target list or something like that, but maybe this is another way to do it.
I see that a lot on resumes. You know, worked for, consulted for top 10 company with such and such revenues, so many number of employees. So that's
Right.
helpful.
You know, the other thing is to try and get at least a testimonial quote wherever you can from a, you know, a prior client. You might not get the entire details of the project, but at least they can speak to the kind of work you did. And I start at the beginning of every one of my web pages in my executive search practice with a testimonial quote from one of my past customers.
And as Richard was reading my intro, some of my quotes on my LinkedIn were from, you know, former managers or peers or candidates, you know, telling about their experiences with me.
Really appreciate it. Again, I'm recording this, and we'll break it down into a little bit more bite-sized pieces. So I'll share that with you, Carrie, and you can use it however you like. It won't be the entire meeting, but it will encompass the entire presentation. So this might be a nice little tool for you to use in the future.
Appreciate it.
Richard, any final words?
My final word, I'm going to come back to my topic about talking money. I had a client who got a job offer for $400,000. They went back in and made 2 phone calls and got it raised to $600,000. So my opinion as a candidate, as a job seeker, as a consultant, people leave money on the table every day. So you don't want to drive the buyer away, like selling a house, by alienating them for asking for too much. But in my opinion, in most cases, you can get more than is offered, and you should consider, if you're in the right negotiating position, to negotiate some.
That's a huge difference, 400 to 600. I kind of wonder about the client, like, were they holding back?
Apparently so.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. No,
Well, that's an extreme example, but in my opinion, if you're looking at an individual contributor and you get an offer of 75,000, you could probably get 80 if you just ask for it. So I think people leave money on the table every day, and that's something to think about when you're talking about money.
True.
Well, you know, that's a good point because, you know, every company expects that to get a counter offer. And to, you know, to a large extent, you know, you're being evaluated as a candidate throughout the offer and acceptance and negotiation phase. And, you know, people want to see, you know, what's your negotiating style. And, you know, there's people that have lost jobs, you know, that have just been impossible to work with. I mean, that's good information for the client. On the other hand, you know, the client isn't all that impressed if you just roll over and take the first offer. So it's important to think of the offer and acceptance phase of the job search as a part of the, you know, interview and selection process for the client.
So as recruiters, what percentage of candidates that get an initial job offer would you say come back and make some attempt, even if it's tepid, at negotiating the offer up, roughly?
100%.
Okay. What about with you, Carrie?
I actually don't see it a lot. I would probably say 40%. Probably because, well, I shouldn't say this, but I'm upfront with the candidate in the beginning, and I let them know this is, you know, this is the highest we can go, and I let them know when we're first starting the interview. You know, if you're not okay with the highest range the client can go, I get it, but just so you know, we can't go higher than that.
So any other questions for Carrie?
Wow, it's 9:30.
Right on time. You did a great job, Carrie.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Carrie.